In the early years, due to the fact that Asperger's syndrome wasn't a very well understood condition, it was very often diagnosed late. And from my point of view, I wasn't diagnosed till the age of 17 and 6 months, I think, just before the age of 18. And when we found out that I had Asperger's, a lot of people, when they look back at my earlier years before I was diagnosed, they said, oh, if you'd been diagnosed earlier, things would have been so much better. People would have understood more, could have been, more careful and more aware, because, from my point of view, as I'm sure with a lot of people with Asperger's, going through school was, very difficult. Due to my Asperger's, as we found out later on, that because I was very different from a lot of other children, I became a target for them, and in some respects for some of the teachers as well, because they thought that I was just somebody who was just making life difficult or was trying to cause trouble, when in fact, as it turned out later on, that the reason why I was behaving differently and not the same as all the other children was due to the fact that I had a condition which up until the age of 18 nobody knew nothing about. So my family, initially thought that, it would have been better if only we'd known before then, but I can't help thinking that part of the benefit of me being who I am today was not known, as I've said to everyone who's said, like, if only we'd known before then, maybe things could have been better for you. Yeah, that might be true, but the thing is, anybody who hasn't been diagnosed early and has been diagnosed late in life, before you think it could have been better if you had been diagnosed early, then yes, that is true in some respects, but also the things that are positive about yourself that you have today, if you had been diagnosed earlier and people had been treating you, with more care due to your Asperger's, would you be the person you are today? And from my point of view, I don't think I would be. One thing that I did read, I listened to in an audio book about Asperger's, which done a story about a person with Asperger's, and it did give a lot of details that, on the symptoms and that. And one thing that it did point out was that Asperger's people find it very hard, if not impossible, to be physically touched, and I've seen that crop up again and again in things that I've read about Asperger's and on forums and bits and pieces. But for me, I've never had that problem, because in my early life, I was always being cuddled and that by members of the family, and that still goes on today. So I think if we'd known that early and I had been treated with more so-called, care, that would have probably been a hindrance to me more than a benefit, because what would have happened was I would have ended up, being more wary of people, because that would have been how my symptoms would have been, and also people would have been probably more cautious with me, trying not to, upset me if they'd read up on the symptoms and seen how most Asperger's people react. So I think part of the reason why that's one symptom that isn't exacerbated for me, is down to the fact that I wasn't diagnosed early. So it gave me the benefit of being able to have some parts of me as perfectly normal, when if I had been diagnosed from the off, I wouldn't be at normal. So from the point of view of being diagnosed with Asperger's earlier in life, I think yes, it can be a positive, because in things like school, where you can be a target, you can make life easier if people know that you've got it. But then on the other hand, things that people are not wary of you for in your own family, or do try not to be careful with you because they don't know you've got the condition, means that you yourself do not get set into a repetitive pattern of carrying on with those things, and you just try and act as normal as possible. And then if you do find out later on you've got Asperger's, you don't really, at least from my point of view, I haven't changed those things. So I was wondering what everyone else thought. Were you diagnosed early or were you diagnosed late? And do you think it is a benefit or a hindrance to be diagnosed late? Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.